XYBERJAE here. And I know I did say that I don't really do YouTube reactions to Nick Fuentes, although big hero of mine. This one hit differently. Not only was it funny, but there were a lot of points made. Things got tense, and in my opinion, a lot better than the Tucker Carlson interview. You know how Piers Morgan is. So yes, things got a little crazy, but it was fun to watch. It does get tense, and you can tell there was a distinction between putting words in Nick Fuentes' mouth, also Piers Morgan, like always, just throwing things out there out of left field. I'm going to go over the clips that I like the most. This will just be my favorite scenes. Yes, you may even hear me laugh for the first time. I know it was 2 hours, but we will just go through the highlights, just the parts that I like the most. Enjoy.
One common theme, I would say, is everyone's a product of their environment. And I was reading some stuff about you in the last few days. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We were deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. So before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment? That your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you?
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear,
I think everybody
I'm not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think everybody knows what that is, but I'll address it. I'll engage with it, and I'll defend my father from the charge of racism.
Sure.
No, my parents are not racist, and they've never been racist. I'll tell you about my parents. They used to have a school in Chicago in the South Loop where they instructed people on how to shoot firearms. It was a security school, and most of the clients were black. And I believe actually one of their clients was Larry Hoover's son at one point, sort of a funny story. And so most of their clients would come in from the south side of Chicago. My grandmother, she grew up in the projects in the city. And so my family, being in Chicago, being ethnics, being Italian, Irish, Mexican, and the west side on Taylor Street, all over the city, my family for many generations have lived near and around black people. And look, my views about black people and their views about black people are shaped with experiences with black people. And what they will tell you, what my parents would say if they were here, is that for many, many years, the older generations of black people were very respectful, very humble, very decent. In fact, my grandma used to have an anecdote. She grew up in a lot of dysfunction. Her mother was mentally ill, and they would be having dinner in the projects, and there'd be so much chaos and dysfunction and disagreement and fighting. And she would look across the way out the window at a black family in the other apartment, and they'd be holding hands around the table saying grace. And this is sort of the culture that used to prevail. But now what you have in the city is that there's no accountability for the black people. And now Chicago has become a complete dump because these teenagers go out and they take over the city. They call them teen takeovers.
YNs.
That's the euphemism for it. They're teenagers, but they all come from the same neighborhood. They drive up there and they mug people and attack people and they destroy cars and destroy shops. We had the Festival of Lights a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a family event. And they light up the trees and they, there's a big parade. I was in the parade one year and you had a bunch of black people there shooting each other. 7 people shot, a 14-year-old killed in the Magnificent Mile. And I know there's a lot of black people that feel the same way about this. They say, we've lost control of the city and we're looking for accountability. We have a lot of black people that are always outraged about racism, outraged about attitudes from white people, but they're never ashamed of some of these behaviors, never ashamed of some of the things that go on. And that's why I think there's a lot of negative attitudes these days. And so, again, I think those attitudes, you say I'm a product of my environment. I am. And so are my parents and my grandparents. Unlike you, because you're not even American, in Chicago, we have to live in a big, diverse city where there's a lot of different kinds of people. And I think anybody in Chicago will tell you the same.
I live in London. It's one of the most, the biggest and most diverse cities in the world.
But it's not the same.
Well, actually, it's a big, diverse city.
If you watch Paul Joseph Watson, he lives very lavishly. He's trying to make it sound like he lives in the heart of London, but no. He lives in the richest areas. He's actually away from all of that drama that's going on. So no, don't listen to Piers Morgan. Don't let him, he's being modest, but don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you. I may have the episode of Paul Joseph Watson from Modernity. Check him out. His last episode was actually on Piers Morgan. So yeah, it's something like this, very similar. He mentions that he pretty much is out of touch with reality too, which Nick Fuentes does as well. But if you want to watch that episode, check out Paul Joseph Watson.
The difference is we don't have the gun violence because we don't have guns. That's a whole different story. I don't want to get into that with you. I have got into that before in America.
You got a knife problem. You got sword problems.
We have problems with
Aladdin.
We have problems with violent crime. I make no pretense of it. So the idea that somehow I'm cosseted in London because I'm not in Chicago.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of implied it, but I guess my point about the environment, I'm not saying you are a product of your environment. I'm saying most people are in some capacity. When I read that anecdote, it's just to remind you, it's not something I have put out there. You told this story, right? And you said that
you said this. We're looping. You said this.
No, but you haven't really directly, I think, responded to it, which is whether your father would not take you to certain restaurant chains because he associated them with black Americans. Is that true?
No. Well, see here, if you're in America, you would say that Olive Garden is not real Italian food.
It's not. Applebee's,
TGI Fridays, this stuff is a load of crap. My dad was just a food snob, but no, it's got nothing to do with that. My best friend in first grade was a black guy. We're not a racist family, so.
Okay, so when you told the story, I'm just curious. So when you told that anecdote, which clearly on the face of it is racist, right? You're basically saying your father made racist decisions about where you would go as a family to eat. Are you saying, well, I'm just going to ask you a question. Are you saying that when you told that story, you didn't mean to infer that he was racist? And do you understand why when somebody like me reads that anecdote for the first time, as I did this week, I reach a different conclusion?
Remember, but that's not Nick Fuentes' fault. If his parents wanted to stay away from certain diverse or certain demographic areas, that's because they wanted to keep them safe, or they didn't associate with them, or maybe it was a different time back then. I don't know why Piers Morgan is blaming him for that. It's not like he was the driver or the one paying for the bill, right?
Well, I understand what you're doing, which is a sort of making of a murderer. How did he become racist? Well, his father didn't eat an Olive Garden because he said that's not real Italian food. Hang on,
I'm literally reminding you of something you said on your show, which led me to conclude a certain thing. I'm wrong, tell me.
Yeah, it was said in jest as a humorous anecdote, and now you're trying to spin it into a narrative, which is his parents are racist. He comes from a long line of racists. And I think everybody knows my parents are boomers. And these people come, well, you're a boomer, I guess, too. And in a way,
60.
right? You were born at what, 19? Yeah, so you're a boomer also. Or maybe you're a Gen Xer, I suppose it's sort of on the cusp. But it's a humorous anecdote. These are kind of the attitudes of baby boomers in society, but you're trying to spin it into a narrative which is you're a product of your environment. Your dad's racist because of this joke. Now you're a racist, and I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Okay, people can make their own minds up. They can go back and listen to you say it. I mean, the beauty of what I'm going to talk to you about in this interview is that almost all of it is just going to be reminding you what you have said and asking you what you meant. Your position about that story is that it was a joke. Okay, I want to come to something else you said. This is where you talk about Jews, women.
Follow me for more, for the next parts and next questions. I'm going to keep them separate so these videos are not too long. This is why Nick Fuentes is the king of the groypers, the founder of the groypers, and why he's bringing all of us together. He remains calm, and look at how he answers the questions. Facts. And you got to give it up to him. He's doing really good. He's doing good so far. I am XYBERJAE. Like and follow and leave a comment of what you thought of this segment. Subscribe to my X, Rumble, YouTube, and be in the loop when I release new content. Also turn on the notifications so that you never miss an episode. I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Because there is a future. You are the resistance. XYBERJAE out.